My God, the week in which the Premier League assault on that Champions League jug went totally Marty Supreme. Seething Pep City, Chelsea Strange Huddle FC, wide open Spurs. Oh, poor valiant Tottenham, if we're being honest. Oh, the obliteration of Newcastle. Are we the farmers? Arsenal and Liverpool, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, are our only hope. To make it all make sense, it's a joy to welcome on a Wednesday, Crown Prince of Harrogate. It's Mr. Rory Smith.
A big Wednesday, Rog. It's a big Wednesday.
Oh, it is a big Wednesday. You beautiful human being. It is a joy to be with you on this big match breakdown live, which means you, dear listeners, can be a massive part of the show. Come on and ask your questions about football, tonight's football, just about life if you want. Here's how. Just scan the QR code in the top of your screen. It'll take you into a Zoom with our producer, Tony. He'll get you as soon as you can up to get your question. Come and be with us. Slap your comments in the chat. Give this a like and a subscribe. But Raw, a lot of football to get through. And by the way, almost all of it, it's not just the games and the scores. So many of these teams feel like they are on the brink. Slot out, LinkedIn Liam. Howe has done all he can. The pet legacy, Spurs, oh my God, everything. Maybe we're just very knee-jerk. Everything now feels deeper than just a result. But let's start with happiness for you, Raw. I feel dead inside still. I'm pretending to be happy. Liverpool 4, Galatasaray 0. Liverpool 4-1 on aggregate. Nothing to see here. To Anfield, which I'm old enough to remember last Sunday, was full of booze. An agony for Arne Slot, jeers, whistles, place where his team had already lost 5 times. A little nervy going into this. Last seen drawing with self-loathing's Tottenham. The press, non-evident. The pace of play too slow. The aura just not there, which is really unforgivable. Raw, take me before the game. You began with Mo Salah, Konate, Kirkez, Hugo Ekitike, all restored. What was the mood? Could you even conceive of disaster ahead of this one, or do you not even remember anymore? Such is the joy.
I'm not sure I could conceive of anything other than disaster, Rog, to be honest. It looked like it was a team Liverpool had played twice so far this season. They'd lost twice. They'd been appalling twice. And as much as you kind of know that Galatasaray at home and Galatasaray away are different prospects, there was very little reason to think this is one of those games where Liverpool will be great in Europe. There was no evidence to think like that. So you kind of hope that they might turn it on. But it's been a long, long time since I've seen Liverpool play well, Rog. So I wasn't expecting it.
It's been an age. And Liverpool did begin with at least a sense of mission and intensity, some toil, a work ethic. Galatasaray, from the very beginning, trying to wind down the clock to break up play, let the anxiety of the Liverpool crowd kick in. And it worked for 25 minutes until Liverpool's very first corner. Set piece well practiced. McAllister drove it deep to an unmarked Szoboszlai on the edge of the box. A really finely, deliciously drilled shot, left-footed, low, into the corner. And just as he has so many times, Raw, Szoboszlai bails the team out. 5th Big Boy Champions League goal of the campaign for Dom. What noise came out of the Smith mouth in the Smith house in that moment?
Well, I had to be quite careful, Rog, because I was watching it with my little boy. He's allowed to watch the first half of European games. So it was all very PG-13, I can assure you. It was very PG-13. It was a great goal. It was the way that he shifted his body, because he wanted to hit it right-footed, and the pass was just not quite right. And to just kind of decide midway through the strike, do you know what? This is one for the left, and to catch it that cleanly, it was a beautiful goal. Dominic Szoboszlai only scores beautiful goals.
Yeah, beautiful man. Beautiful goal. You're a bastard sending your kid to bed at half time. Poor kid went to bed full of fear, dread, uncertainty. I remember doing that when I was a kid. I'd make my dad, I don't know if it's still done by kids in this kind of digital world, I'd make him leave a little note with the final score on so that when I woke up in the morning, I could save minutes to find out before he came in and woke me up. Are you that kind of dad?
No, he'll come down and he'll watch the highlight. It's 2026, right? But my final words to him before he went to bed, apart from "I love you," were, "This is going to finish 1-1. Galatasaray score in the 80th minute." That was how I sent him to bed.
Good night. That's the Yorkshire way. Death will come for us all, son, and the enemy is behind every door. God bless. Kid is in bed, watching on his phone like a good lad. But anyway, In that moment, though, Dom scores, Premier League back to being the best in the world. Then you had these chances. Salah a one-on-one not taken. Wirtz got his nipples out after missing a snatch shot with the goal gaping. Anfield became a nervy place. And worse when Szoboszlai took the charge, planted to win the penalty. Up stepped Mo, I'm more and more convinced in that first half, the stunt double who is playing Mo almost is standing, because I don't know what else rationally you could do to explain this drop-off. Man is the penalty king. I think he'd scored 10 straight. I think he's just one successful kick away from Steven Gerrard's record for Liverpool as the leading penalty taker of all time. Not like that, Mo. I mean, Mo normally batters the ball raw. When he tries to place it, and I'm not quite sure why he did the placing thing, it's always no bueno. Here, he went for the rarely seen low Panenka. My Lord. I just like, why not let Szoboszlai take it then, mate?
I think Szoboszlai might have. I'm trying to remember. I think Szoboszlai missed his last one, so I guess he's maybe kind of reverted. He's reverted to Salah again. It was a really bad penalty. I would say, Rog, do you remember the Brahim Diaz penalty that we thought had cost Morocco the African Cup of Nations, except that it turns out it hadn't?
No, we knew it didn't. We were like, chill out, man. Just wait 57 days.
And you will win it. This penalty doesn't need to be taken. I think Salah's penalty was worse than that. It was a worse penalty than Diaz's because it was a low Panenka. You don't take a low Panenka.
I know, it's so crazy. A low. I'm going to take the Panenka, but I'm going to improve it.
Well, it's like I don't know if what the American equivalent of MasterChef is, but you know how they'll do like a banoffee pie but broken down. It was like Mo was kind of playing with the form of the Panenka.
Yeah.
What if you had a Panenka but it was on the ground? He Blumenthaled the Panenka.
He's deconstructing his cuisine.
A deconstructed Panenka.
I don't know, man. It's called a pass back now. When does a Panenka? How low can you go before it does just become a pass back? I mean, just the idea of it. Whatever was going through his mind. This is a man, an elite man of wonder who's come on our show and told us how he visualizes for the 24 hours before he takes a field the exact goal he's going to score that night. Do you think he visualized this, or do you think he's like, tonight? Trademark the low Panenka, bank on it.
My theory on that moment, Rog, is that Salah is so bereft of confidence that he's trying to kind of manifest confidence. He's trying to turn himself into a confident player again. And what a confident player does in that situation is roll the penalty down the middle. I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. I have won this battle of wits. I have my full confidence back. But obviously he gets it slightly wrong, and Shakir saves it with his feet. And at that point, I mean, it just felt like another nadir in what's been such a kind of desperately sad season for Mohamed Salah. You know, if you think where he was this time last year, playing possibly the best football of his career, he seemed to kind of be on the verge of another 2 or 3 years of this incredibly high-level performance. The drop-off has been extraordinary, and that penalty felt like it capped it.
He's at 2022 World Cup Ronaldo stage of his career, is what he seems like. I love your theory. I mean, I think Mo is visualizing what he's going to do before he goes on the field, but it's a bit like Cassandra in Greek mythology, who was cursed by being able to see the future, which I always thought was like incredible. Wouldn't you want that? But the future she saw was the fall of Troy and her own death. Not so great. And I bet you he's visualizing at home. And when he writes his autobiography, he'll write about this period. All I visualized was the misses. And it must have just been a human darkness. And it felt like there could be a trope. Could this be Liverpool not taking their chances? Jalisa, my Liverpool supporting producer, texted me at half-time when I asked her what the final score would be. She said, I'm trying this thing called optimism. I've been reading about it a lot recently. And whenever she did, it worked. Because second half, 2 quick-fire goals. First from Ekitike, set up brilliantly by a stunning Mo pass. Going to tell my kids Mo was actually shooting. Then Gravenberch, 2 minutes later, ditto Mo assist. And then the moment, because it did feel like, you know, once the game had been put to bed, it all became Operation Get Mo his goal. And it was exquisite. Mo on the right wing, cut inside, exchange a delicious pass with old nipples, Wirtz, pick that ball up, and then just with a blast, I think carved in equal parts from history and muscle memory. His 50th Champions League goal at last, and it was a rolling back the years moment. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that is, I think, the moment he's been waiting for this season. And in the first flush of kind of victory and seeing Liverpool play well for the first time in months, you're tempted to think maybe that's kind of where everything clicks for him again, and he realizes that he can still do this. It's probably too soon to say that, but I think if anything's going to get him out of this slump, it's scoring the Mohamed Salah goal. That is the Mohamed Salah calling card goal, and it was done perfectly. And that second half, to be fair to Salah, given that after that penalty, he basically looked like he was finished. That second half, he was really, really good.
Yeah, the motif ultimately of a delirious night at Anfield. What I think the Reds really, really needed. Great goals, 3 from open play, clean sheet. And what was fascinating to me was watching the game, watching Arne slot rule. In great times past, last season, for instance, so stoic, so calm. Such a unique presence in contrast to Klopp now, from the very off, animated, demonstrative, kinetic. At times, it was a little bit like watching a Dutch David Byrne stop making sense. At a time when there's been a growing, I think the word is insurgency, a mutiny, almost fermenting amongst some of the elements of the fan base against his leadership. Jamie Carragher musing over the weekend out loud whether Arne can win back the fans, which I think is Scouse for you're only as good as your last movie. Raw, I'm not sure what right now Arne Slot is living and feeling in every moment. Little bit of injustice seeping in, little bit of frustration, little bit of anger. But he's really working hard to try and prove that he hasn't turned the Liverpool club from believers into doubters.
Yeah, we said on Monday, didn't we, that Slot's in a kind of delicate situation now. He needs not just results over the next 2.5 months. He needs to finish the season strongly, ideally getting Liverpool back into the Champions League. They need a decent showing against PSG. I don't think anyone would judge him for losing to PSG, but there's a way of losing to PSG. But he needs performances. He needs to convince people, the people watching, the people in the stadium, the people watching on TV, that Liverpool are worth watching. And that performance more than anything against limited opposition, that's the kind of thing he needs more than once over the next 2.5 months. Otherwise, I do think it'll get to the summer, and that the sentiment among the fan base will be, "Thank you for the Premier League title. Please, can we have Xabi Alonso?"
Yeah, can we take you off our big flag? God, a lot of talk in the chat about the haze surrounding me in my shot, which I'm sorry to disappoint you. It's just the sun setting over here. At Stir Rothwell 2885 says, is Rod smoking? Or is there a glare or a smoke haze at the top of his screen? I love the idea that I'm like on the cover of High Times with Cheech and Chong. But Raw, let's quickly, while we got one, take a call from Jimmy. Jimmy, tell us where you are and what's your question for King Rule.
Hey, Raj, this is James in Chicago. And my question for you guys tonight's about Liverpool, of course. I mean, a performance like this in a Champions League knockout stage, you have Anfield in full voice, Mo finally getting his goal, Stevie G's there clapping him in the stands. Could this be the catalyst needed to make that top 4 push and, finish the season strong? And then in addition to that, what does Liverpool need to do in the next round to stand a chance against PSG?
I love that question, bro. It's like, can nice things happen, or is there just darkness and obliteration around the corner?
Well, so the PSG thing, yeah, they'll go into it very much second favourites. Although the second leg, I think will be at Anfield. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it will be at Anfield, which is an advantage. And the story of when those two teams met in the last 16 last year has been told as kind of PSG battered Liverpool in Paris. Liverpool somehow fluked to 1-0 win, and then Liverpool got outclassed at Anfield. I'm not sure that's entirely true. PSG did batter Liverpool in Paris, and they did fluke a 1-0 win, but they had plenty of chances at Anfield. And certainly before the Dembele goal, I think Salah missed a really, really presentable opportunity. If that goes in, then maybe PSG aren't champions of Europe. So I think the game will be, if Liverpool play like they did tonight, if they can show the same level of like intensity and control, the game will be close. But basically, they're going to need PSG to have at least one rough evening to get through, I think. Whether it can be a catalyst in the lead, you'd like to think so. It's not very scientific, it's not very rational. I believe that that's how it works, that if a team kind of clicks into gear, it does something to the kind of internal chemistry and they figure out, okay, there is a way we can replicate this form. But then I'm very conscious they go to Brighton at 12:30 UK time on Saturday and we'll probably lose 2-0. So let's wait on that. But yeah, it's got to mean something. The fact that they played so well against a team who aren't the best in Europe, but they're not terrible. Galatasaray. It has to mean something that they produce that kind of performance. It should instill a bit of belief and purpose in them.
Yeah, I will say that game, the PSG game, and I love your analysis, Raw, because I think it is actually bizarrely level-headed after a really delicious performance by your team that was soaked in memory and history and feel good. You got every right to feel a sense of reprieve and wonder. We know football is so knee-jerk, and us pronouncing Liverpool back, we will look like idiots after this weekend, for sure. The PSG game, if I remember last season, and it's something that Slot has obsessed about, constantly seethed since that PSG time. It was like the beginning of like the morph from stoic genius Slot to slightly unhinged, out of control Slot. This game pissed him off last time. Liverpool came top and then just 90 bad minutes or whatever he used to say in the wake of it. He talked about how Liverpool had played my football after that. That was his motif. And I remember at the time a lot of Reds being hugely pissed off because the truth is the Reds were constipated and they had just 4 shots on target over the full 210 minutes against PSG. And if I were thinking through how this game is going to go, you've got to ask yourself, has there been a lot of progress, a lot of signs this season other than the 90 minutes that we've just watched that would make you think anything is going to be different next time around? But maybe that's just the darkness in me. You tell me what you're seeing in the chat. Come be with us. We'll take more questions in a minute. At tcook317 says Roger's Queen isn't smudged. His jacket is actually fire. God bless. The jacket actually is very nice. It's got the new dog on the back. I'd spin round the model. You know what? I'll do a quick. There you go. Look at that. Don't know if you can see that. Keep sending in meninblazers@gmail.com all your suggestions for what we name our new beloved hound. All of them are making me laugh, particularly the ones who are trying to urge me to call it Duncan Ferguson, which I'm tempted. Talking about teams who need fight. Need some wonder tonight. My heart is with you. Tottenham 3, Atletico Madrid 2, 5-7 on aggregate. You won the battle, you lost the war. I did love the gallows humour ahead of this one, Raw. At Invert the Wing tweeted, biggest question for Wednesday, Van de Ven or Dragusin? One looks like he's trying to intentionally sabotage our team. The other also looks like he's trying to sabotage the team, but not intentionally. I love Igor's like, I'm going to play them both. I show no fear and fear neither man nor beast. The game itself, I think, will be forgotten by history. Champions League Tottenham, we do know are a different Tottenham, like less Dr. Tottenham, more Mr. Spurs. They offer a brief glimmer of hope. They scored a couple. Atletico pegged them back. Were little Atleti nerves in moment. There was one moment when even Diego Simeone on the sidelines was trying to calm things down, which was like watching an arsonist join the fire department. Xavi Simons won, converted the last second penalty for the mere 49,000 in attendance, which is quite something. A synthetically feel-good night. Spurs Raw can now focus on the single goal they set out to achieve when the season began, which is to stave off relegation.
This sounds like hyperbole, Roger, and as you know, we don't like to be hyperbolic. I don't know if I've ever looked forward to a football match more than Spurs Forest. I think I'm so excited about Spurs Forest. It just has everything. And to be fair, as much as it's easy to kind of sort of mock Tottenham, they've had a good week. They get a point at Anfield, which they wouldn't have been expecting, and which was came off the back of a really smart and at times quite good performance. And then, okay, yeah, synthetic is a great way of putting it. It's a kind of, it's not even a Pyrrhic victory, is it? It's a victory that doesn't feel like a victory. But they have just beaten Atletico Madrid, and that restores a little bit of pride. You could just about make the case that if Antonin Kinski doesn't have a difficult first 17 minutes, the tie is a lot closer than it ended up being. But at least it gives them a little bit of pride, something to kind of hook onto going into that game against Forest, the greatest football match of all time. And then the remaining, I think, 7 fixtures that come in April and May. They only really have to win 3 of them to stay up. They should be able to do that, because ultimately, if you can beat Atletico Madrid, even when Atletico are they've kind of turned up and they're not entirely sure what they're meant to be doing, then that is it's something to build on. And Spurs have been so bereft of that you kind of take what you can get at this stage.
There was a really poignant moment in this one, but during the anthems, the camera cut to one of those sweet little mascots, and they did the Sonny camera celebration to the camera, which I found really bittersweet. It was like, don't you always seem to know that you don't know what you got till it's gone, which is, beautiful in a way, but it's also kind of painful. Those happier days. I do want to focus very quickly on one storyline which has been tough to watch, honestly, this week, which is watching Igor Tudor in Interview Raw. I do quickly want to get a pulse check on the way the English media are almost baiting him, treating Igor. A couple of pretty in-your-face interviews, which finished, I think, both of them with him kind of deciding the interview is over. I'm leaving with my dignity intact, walking off. Does feel a little bit like a baiting of a man whose first language is not English, who does struggle to communicate with perhaps the nuance that you kind of need in this very delicate emotional moment. I both feel for Tudor, I really, really do. But it does make him seem like an even odder choice role when one of the key roles of a modern manager is as a communicator, and in his case, a crisis communicator.
Yeah, and in his first kind of press appearances, which would have been straight after his appointment, he seemed very much like the guy you want. He was bullish, he was kind of optimistic, he was positive. He clearly felt, okay, look, this is Tottenham Hotspur. This is actually quite an easy gig. All I have to do is not be terrible. We'll stay up. I'll look good. I might get another job in England after this. I don't think he came in thinking, I'm going to get this job full time. And then it was almost like he watched Tottenham play and he thought, oh, hang on, this is much worse than I realised. And he took the approach. This has been a season of like radical honesty from managers. And it started with Ruben Amorim, who kept saying what was wrong with Manchester United, which was a really bad idea. And then I think Thomas Frank did it a little bit at Spurs. Enzo Maresca did it at Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel's done it with England, and a couple of times he's kind of got himself into trouble.
Oliver Glasner at Crystal Palace.
Glasner's a great example as well. Yeah, like they are all saying what they think, which is a slightly weird thing for managers to do. As a journalist, I encourage it. Definitely keep on doing it. Loving your work. For managers, I'm slightly surprised people aren't saying you need to kind of rein this in a little bit, because Tudor basically got a reputation for answering questions pretty frankly. And that means people will go to his media engagements expecting, right, come on, give us some of the good stuff. Give me some of that clickbait. And I think that is what has kind of happened to him, that his press conferences have become quite combative because people are looking for the Igor Tudor moment. Hopefully this week, those Tudor results kind of just kind of dampens that a little bit, because he now has a little bit of credit in the bank.
God bless Igor. Stand your ground. Crazy story that we'll have to wait for summer to play out. Major building steam reports in the English media about return from Mauricio Pochettino, which is a lot to process in so many levels. As was the game in Barcelona tonight. Barca 7. Oh my God, Newcastle. What happened? 8-3 on aggregate. Really, less a game of football, more an obliteration of hope. Eddie Howe promised Newcastle would not, quote, shrink in Barcelona, and his words came true. Hand-to-hand exchanges till at least the end of the first half, when a blistering second 45, Barcelona raised the tempo and utterly broke Newcastle's back. Rafinha, Fermin Lopez, Robert Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal were simply too good. It was like watching somebody tie a cherry stem into a knot using their tongue, while Newcastle are just like, what? You can do that? I could ask you if Eddie Howe's time is nearing its end, or if English defences have just become so used to defending the corners and the long throws that they don't know how to cope with this new thing called open play. But instead, I want to quickly ask you a positive question, Raw. How good are Barcelona? We were told they were susceptible to pace and counter. They just obliterated a pace-filled, counter-hungry team. Are Barcelona a true threat to Arsenal on their side of the bracket?
It's going to be really interesting if those two get through. And I think we should expect Arsenal to beat Sporting, as much as that is a real achievement for Sporting to get to the quarterfinals. Arsenal will be heavy favourites. Barca Atleti is tricky because they've just played in the Copa del Rey semi-finals. Atleti beat them 4-0 in Madrid and then lost 3-0 in Barcelona. So that will be a tough game for Barca. But if they were to get through, the contrast in styles is really interesting. There is definitely a thing going on, Rog. We've seen it over the last 2 weeks. The Premier League teams aren't quite sure what to do when faced with teams that want to attack them and want to play them and can keep the ball. I think that's the crucial thing, that the style in the Premier League now is to play man-to-man all over the pitch. It comes from Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds. Various other kind of coaches have done it since. That is what teams are doing in the Premier League. It's kind of this endless battle of duels, like you've said frequently on the podcast. But in Europe, you're facing teams who are fine with that because they will pass the ball around you. They are good enough to pass the ball around you. They will keep it away from you. Newcastle, who are... I mean, I know they've had this kind of average season in the league, but to me, they are the most Premier League team. They are the team that kind of defines the modern Premier League. They are excellent. Like, they've got really, really good footballers. Tonali's wonderful. They miss Bruno Guimaraes, but they've got really, really good footballers. But they are big. They are strong. They are quick. They want to play on the counter-punch, but they don't have that kind of technical expertise that you're going to get from teams like Barcelona or even Real Madrid. You know, if you look at the technical level that the Real Madrid players have, it's extraordinary. Newcastle's kind of man-to-man, high-intensity, endlessly dynamic style, they just got bedazzled by Barcelona. It was like watching, this is a slightly weird reference, that's what it used to look like in the 90s when English teams went to play abroad, because they almost couldn't understand the sort of continental sophistication. And to me, what happened over the last 20 years is that the English teams bought that in. So you had this sort of blend of English industry and pace with foreign technique and tactics and strategy and sophistication. And over the last 18 months, I think the English teams have forgotten the last bit, because Newcastle seemed totally baffled by the idea that it was seeing Pedri play on the half turn. Newcastle just didn't understand what he was doing. They'd not seen anyone do that for months. But every time he did it, a little drop of the shoulder, a little jink, little half turn, and he had this whole space of midfield to play in. It was how Lamine set up the fourth goal, I think. Just a little turn, and suddenly he's away, and Newcastle have been broken apart completely. And I think that is basically the story of the last 2 weeks, that they just couldn't get to grips with what Barcelona were trying to do. It's so different to what they have domestically.
It's like seeing a Kurosawa film in which poor fishermen in a village are attacked by ninjas and they just do not know what happened. Also similar, Bayern 4, Atalanta 1, 10-1 on aggregate. Game wrapped up in the first leg. 5-goal deficit. We had the pre-match excitement of a possible goalkeeping drama. Jonas Erbig, fortunately for him, passed his concussion protocol. So no delicious 16-year-old New York-born Leonard Prescott making his debut. A remarkable reality that would have had the Germans scrambling to process a special permit. I love this, to allow a minor to work after 8 p.m. Oh, world football. In the end, Bayern strolled. Highlight, Harry Kane scored twice in this one. The first, his 5th-minute penalty, was his 20th Champions League goal in the last 2 seasons, his 50th in the competition. In 66 Champions League appearances, only Haaland has done it faster, along with Ruud van Nistelrooy. We don't deserve him. Bayern stalled. Bayern strolled. A night which was really ultimately as casual as Vincent Kompany's sideline outfit. To last night, Arsenal 2, Leverkusen 0. Arsenal win 3-1 on aggregate. If you can keep your head while all the other English Premier League teams are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Leverkusen felt dangerous coming in. They draw with Bayern Munich. They'd also won the social media delightfully going into this, but also cruised here to reach the last 8 for the 3rd year in succession, which is pretty remarkable for Mikel Arteta. Stunning first half spin and strike from Eberechi Eze, followed by the Karma celebration, in which he talked about this in his interview with us. He really took on the pleasure that he just created all around the ground in that moment, which he lives to do. That level of empathy up there with his street ball skills. Chef's kiss. Raw, I think we've all decided about Ebbs. We like him again after his transfer now. Incredible stats, last 4 seasons. Eze has averaged 0.5 goal a game in March, April, May, missed the spring, while just 0.19 goals a game in autumn and winter. He's essentially got the winter blues.
We all feel better when the weather gets nicer, Rog. That's just logic.
I know. He's the ultimate, genuinely. Suns out, guns out player. And amidst the craziness, also continue to be a model of calm and organisation. Quadruple still on. 5 possible more games in the Champions League to glory. The 8 in the league. The Carabao final upcoming. 3 more possible, I think, is it, in the FA Cup. Raw. It is getting, the smoke is clearing. It is possible from bottlers to serial winners. Is the world ready?
Well, I mean, we still need to, there's still games to play, Rog. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's take Sunday first, and then we'll see whether the quadruple is on or just merely the treble, which would be a disappointment.
Oh my God, I'm just ready for the Sunday doesn't go as planned, Arsenal fans, and the media be like, triple's a failure. It's a disastrous season. They'll be so woefully. But a quick one we do have to touch upon, because there's a couple of questions I want to get to from our listeners as soon as I can. You beautiful human beings waiting there. We're coming to you. But we have to touch upon, I'm legally required to call him this, 16-year-old Max Dowman. After the run, the goal, trademark, the moment, trademark against Everton Football Club. Certain sections of the English media, who are normally so logical and rational, I didn't expect this of them, are trying to will or ship Max Dowman to the England World Cup squad. After 60 minutes in 2026 in the Premier League, one magnificent game. It's a madness.
Well, yeah, but England have done weirder things, Rog. Theo Walcott went to the 2006 World Cup having never played in the Premier League. So in many ways, Max Dowman is being a little bit too slow. He needs to kind of pull your finger out, Max. Get in that England squad. I don't know.
Do you think you're special? Do you think you're special, Max?
There is not. All I can say in defence of both this country and Her Majesty or His Majesty's press, I've not seen many serious suggestions that Dowman should go to the World Cup. I don't think it's there quite yet. But look, you're not wrong. If he scores a couple more times in the Premier League, someone is going to say to Thomas Tuchel, should you not get Max Dowman in the squad?
And by the way, when Raw's saying His Majesty's press, the Majesty he is referring to is Mr. Declan Rice. Slightly darker times from a Premier League perspective. Manchester City 1, Real Madrid 2. Madrid ultimately cruised 5-1 on aggregate. We knew this was going to be a tall order. Madrid had never before dropped a 3-0 first leg lead. Pep admitted pre-game that City required the perfect game. They got the opposite. Bernardo Silva sent off for handball early. Vinicius scoring a rarely spotted in the second half of the season. Erling Haaland equaliser. And a finish from Vinicius, followed by his quite exquisite, this moved me on many levels, his crying celebration with which he mocked City fans who had mocked him with their "Stop Crying Your Heart Out" tifo when he failed to win the 2024 Ballon d'Or behind Rodri. And that is how Manchester City exit the Champions League this season, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Raw, 2 questions. First of all, Pep's record in the Champions League at City, 5 times they've started as favourites in the competition. 1 playoff exit, 2 last 16s. I think it's 4 quarterfinals, 1 semi-final, 1 runner-up, 1 title. Given just the abundance of investment and talent that Pep Guardiola has assembled over the past decade, should he have won more Champions League titles? Because it's going to piss him off something massive that he hasn't, won't it?
I mean, and basically, yeah, like there's kind of a clever answer, which I suppose is he maybe should have got to more semi-finals, more finals. You want to kind of be putting yourself in the position to win it, and then if you actually win it, is a little bit of a it's a bounce of a ball, it's a roll of the dice. But yeah, I don't think when he joined City, if you'd said to him, you're going to spend 10 years here, and at the end of it, you'll have one Champions League, I don't think he'd have been satisfied with that. His record in the Champions League in general, since he left Barcelona, isn't what it should be. You know, he had a brilliant Bayern side, probably the best side in Europe for 3 years, didn't win it. He's then had a City team that has almost certainly been the best team in Europe for some of the last 10 years, and he's won it once. It is an underperformance.
And I think give Sunday's Carabao a little more fraught storylining, because this could be ... a second trophyless Guardiola season on the bounce, which is inconceivable. Pep was asked post-game what his statement, "we will be back," means. Does it mean he'll stay? And he said cryptically, "When I retire in 10 years, I will say we will be back because I'm part of that, like in Barcelona or Bayern. When I've been there, I'm part of the club. I am very attached to Man City." Raw, cutting through all the crap, reports are going to trickle out. He's staying, he's going, blah, blah, blah. Last time we went through this, he ended up re-signing an extended contract. We don't know, I would guess, Raw, as a Guardiologist, because he doesn't know right now.
Yeah, we assume he doesn't know. I mean, I'm not certain that's the case. He may well have an idea in mind, but he's earned the right, and I think it's totally logical, totally kind of understandable. He's earned the right to make that decision for himself when he wants, on his own terms. There's no question that he's like preparing the ground for him to leave, whether that's this summer or next. His whole vibe is what I'm going to do on my holidays. That is basically every comment he makes is kind of, "Oh, I can't wait to be on the beach. Guys, I'm going to go trekking. It's going to be amazing."
Yeah, but he's always said that. The first season I interviewed him at City, it was a game where I think Kun Aguero had just been sent off against Arsenal, if I remember. They'd lost to Arsenal. It was embarrassing. He'd just done there. I don't teach the tackles. He was completely, confused by English football, and he shouted out to me then in the middle of the interview, "If they don't want me, I go. I play golf. Bye-bye. I'm happy." I mean, he's always, never as a man who's more of a workaholic, talk more about the nice things he'd like to do with his life.
Yeah, like he's this person who can't survive without managing football teams, without football. I'm not sure he has. It's not like Arsene Wenger, who you always had that sense he'd quite like to be off in the world, kind of doing other things. Guardiola without a job.
Did he really? Because Wenger came on this show and talked with very little regret about how much he sacrificed for football. With almost the shocking, like in my children's lives, I didn't see them grow up. It was a very like a bad late Frank Sinatra song about all the things he regrets in his life, but had no regret at the same time. I mean, they're very similar in that regard. It's fascinating. These human beings, you taught me, their mindset is always, "Oh, I can fix that." Like they don't have any room for self-doubt. It's not something that exists in their makeup. I think Wenger was a slightly more rounded character than Guardiola. I remember being at a dinner with Klopp and Guardiola, and Klopp was asked kind of what would you like to take from Guardiola, and he said, "Well, I'd like to care about it. Basically, I'd like to care about it as much as he does." Yeah,
and I think Klopp just doesn't have that obsession, whereas Guardiola does.
Wenger seemed cultured. He did tell me he'd not been to movies in 10 years. He just hadn't had time to get there. The one who was stealth, really quite cultured, which is hilarious, Roy Hodgson. Always used to enjoy going to book readings in London more than he did football games, which I just kind of adore. I'd love to be in Roy Hodgson's book group. Keep the comments coming in the chat. At Chris Evans 4514 says everyone's going to blame Pep for the entire collapse of English football this season. That's just how it goes. Chelsea 0. PSG 3, talking about collapse. PSG win 8-2 on aggregate. Chelsea ultimately is leaky on the field as their team sheets are off it. João Pedro said we've got to score 3 against PSG like we did in the Club World Cup final. Turned out to be the other way round. The Chelsea faithful booed early on, often, including the Rosinia substitutes against a very young and brilliant PSG team who have an idea of football. They look like a very young, almost a futures team who didn't adrift. Strange huddles and not much beyond. At Vidic, CFC said, Rosinia said he was implementing a new style of pressing. It's called depressing. To lose with no emotion, no fight, no any kind of feeling. It's honestly, ultimately, I think the greatest Chelsea sin, Raw, this team, this club, more and more like, they remind me of Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas, where they're just like, I'm an average nobody, got to live out the rest of my life like a schnook. And the big subplot, Enzo Fernandez asked about his Chelsea future on Arsenal TV. I don't know, he said. When asked about his future, there are 8 games left, the FA Cup, then the World Cup, and then we'll see. We will see, Raw. I'll just say that Club World Cup final and the 5 straight Rosina wins that I remember at the beginning so deliciously, they feel like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, the Club World Cup, I think, was not kind of an illusory moment, but it was maybe a little bit of a kind of a red herring in terms of where Chelsea were and how ready they were to compete. Rosina, I think his first couple of months showed that he's clearly good. Like, he's good at this. He's tactically quite smart. I'm sure that he's been able to build up a rapport with the players. I think he seems like a good guy. He's clearly very intelligent. The last couple of weeks have been difficult, and it's difficult to see how it's going to be a long road back before he can have that kind of aura of, this is going to be the guy to deliver Chelsea to wherever on earth it is that Bedadid Barley and Todd Bowley want them to be. I'm not sure what the end purpose of their investment is, but Rosina he looks a little bit like he's out of his depth at the moment. And that's understandable, because his last job was at Strasbourg. His job before that was at Hull. And now he's meant to be the guy who can find a way past PSG. That's a big old leap. But the problem is that at Chelsea, it's kind of sink or swim. And they've thrown him into it. And the question now is kind of, how does he get out of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult. He also comes across as a man that is reading his social media. So everything is like a reaction, a counter-reaction, or a counter-reaction. He looks very, very inside his own head. And just watching him, like 83rd, 84th minute, the title long gone, still scribbling tactical instructions to his players. I found it hard to watch. What's the solution? At KM Burn 7279 in the chat says, Chelsea will stick 8 in the net against Everton Saturday. You're welcome. Finally, before we get to your question, say it ain't so, Raw. Sporting Lisbon 5, Bodo Glimt 0. Oh my God, the greatest thing out of Scandinavia since sentimental value. Once Sporting tied the aggregate score, it's like watching a tightrope walker look down across the Grand Canyon and be like, holy crap, that's a little tiny wire. I mean, it was just like seeing someone's mortality just smack them in the face. Sporting, their stadium, a ground that could fit 43,000 residents from the club's hometown with almost 10,000 seats to spare. They've gone and beaten this club against the likes of Borussia Dortmund, Manchester City, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan and Sporting in the first leg. And then, woof, they just imploded, leaving only the memories, the way they made our hearts sore, the way they made us all dream and feel good. Ultimately, reminded us there's no feel good. There's no romance in football, Raw, and definitely not in the bloody Champions League.
Yeah, there's 2 things about that game that stood out to me. One was, I think it was because Bodo had something to lose. For the first time since they beat City in Norway back in January, they were under some sort of pressure. They had a 3-0 lead from the first leg. They had what everyone thought was kind of the easy draw, the other weakest team in the competition. And there was this place in the quarterfinals that I think a lot of people had assumed they'd got. Like, I'm not going to name names, but there's several news organizations have commissioned pieces from Bodo for the quarterfinals, which will now not be written. Not me. I want to make that clear. But a lot of journalists are going to have to spend some time in the Arctic Circle with very little to do, or just to render their flights. But the other thing that was really interesting at the end of the first leg, as you were watching it and kind of Bodo was celebrating, and that tiny ground, the Asmira, was kind of in tumult, and everyone was excited. The Sporting fans who'd made that journey were absolutely lambasting their players. And I remember, I watched that one with my son as well, and I remember saying to him, like, it's a bit weird that they're shouting at them so much, because they must have realised by now that Bodo are pretty good. And, Inter have been beaten there, Man City have been beaten there, Atleti lost in Madrid to Bodo Glimt. All right, you don't want to lose 3-0, but it felt a bit excessive. But I think it was a reminder that Sporting are the sort of team that are under pressure as well. They have... Those big 3 Portuguese teams are enormous institutions in Portugal. So they would have had a lot of pride at stake in certainly giving a good account of themselves against Bodo, and ideally in turning the tie round. And I think once they got to 2, they might have thought, okay, this is on. This is a team from Norway, and we're Sporting Club de Portugal. We can win this. And you sort of saw the whole place fill with confidence and belief and just a little bit of grandeur.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny. All those, I've watched one person on television with a straight face trying to explain how they believe Bodo could get all the way to the final. God bless football again. Crushes our souls, teaches us we know nothing. Quick one, I do want to get to the questions and get on my flight, but I do need to ask you this. Arsenal, Liverpool, they live on, but everybody else, Chelsea, Spurs, Newcastle, Manchester City, really not even close, really beaten. This Opta stat, astonishing. There's been 3 occasions since 1955 that an English team has conceded 8+ goals on aggregate in the European Cup tie. 2 of them have come in the past couple of days. Part of me thinks, I thought, our league is so competitive. This is obviously the most obvious theory, that the teams are just beating the crap out of each other. Brentford, Bournemouth, they're just exhausting us down this stretch of the season. So we've seen, for instance, Manchester United saw, partially because they have so relatively few games to play and they remain box fresh. But there is one thing to lose a competitive edge, Raw. There's another to be absolutely torn apart, to be smashed, as a couple of our teams really were. Just tell us quickly, how should we think about it? And what does it say about the wonder of football that we delight in, we feast on a weekly basis?
Fatigue's definitely part of it. But like I said before, I think some of it is stylistic. It's that the English teams encountered against Barca, against Real, against PSG particularly, a style that they're just not really used to seeing. They haven't seen it a lot for 18 months. They're not inoculated against it in the way that they might have been a few years ago. Even that, though, I'm not sure it explains the scale of it, because, I mean, Barca put 4 past Newcastle in the second half tonight. That's too many. That's not warranted. I still think the Premier League is clearly the most competitive league in the world. But you know what? Mainly, I think it's a good thing. I think it is good that the richest league in the world doesn't get to win the European Cup all of the time. That when they get into Europe, there is a level they have to find and aspire to. Because ultimately, if you don't have anything to aspire to, what's the point?
God bless. What is the point? You tell me, because this is the time for your questions. Reminder of how this works on YouTube Live. Scan the QR code. Top left of your keynote, click on the pinned comment in the chat, come into the Zoom with Tony. Our producer will bring you up. But let's rattle through the callers because you're all gorgeous. Let's bring up Mighty JC. Tell us where you're from, JC, and what's your question for the mighty Rory Smith.
What's up, guys? You can hear me, right?
We hear you loud and clear. Where are you, baby?
I'm from Nicaragua.
You're calling in from Nicaragua?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I love the internet, baby, and I'd love to watch a game in your incredible country with you one day. What is your question for R. Smith?
Just thoughts on Moyes, basically drinking from the fountain of youth, being there when Rooney scored, and then now getting repaid.
God, that's such a long and wonderful question. I just Googled Nicaraguan cuisine while I was listening to you. I'm looking at pictures of Gallo Pinto, Naka tamales. Oh my God, that looks good. Savory dough and banana leaves.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. Today there's actually like the FA Cup of Nicaragua going on, so would have been interesting to see you down here.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it live together after those. You beautiful human being. You're asking a great question. How do you understand David Moyes' role? This is a man who first there in Moyes was tenacious, young. Believe it or not, he was young, guys. He fought with very little, tiny budgets. Teams always agonizingly fell short. Even when they got into the Champions League, they, dumped cruelly quickly. It was very Sisyphus. He's gone away. He collapsed. I mean, just darkly. At Sunderland, became almost a joke. Did think about coming over to the United States, loves it here. And then that glorious night with West Ham and his dad dancing, winning, becoming a champion at last. This next phase, he's won it all, Raw. You should kind of like move off to pasture. Instead, to me, he's come back with that same, unfinished business. David Moyes, 2 at Everton, Electric Boogaloo. How do you understand it, though? Because he's got a tiny bit calmer, tiny bit more tactically adept. I think having the win finally has taken like an edge and anger, a complete and utter existential fight for life out of him. But how do you see it?
I think he was probably like a really disciplinarian father, but a very soppy granddad. That's my basic understanding of David Moyes. Just lets his grandkids get away with anything, always buying them presents, actively makes it harder for his kids to be their parents. He's that kind of granddad, I think. That's the vibe of new Moyes.
I'd agree with that. But we have an interview that launches on YouTube with David Moyes tomorrow. And one of the questions I asked him was, what's your philosophy on young players? What do they need to show you in training to come through? And he immediately goes, Tyler Dibbling needs to show me more.
No, I think you're right. So the win at West Ham, I think, kind of validated him in a way that was necessary after such a long and really successful career. But he does seem to have a kind of, like a calm, like a serenity to him now. I think he feels as though he's kind of proven that what happened at Manchester United was kind of context dependent. He's over Sunderland, he's over Real Sociedad. He's established himself as one of the kind of senior figures, the elder statesman of English football. And the role really suits him. And so does kind of having a squad at Everton, and I say this with respect and pride and to some extent love, is kind of limited. It's very much a kind of backs against the wall situation. We've got to make do and mend. And I think Moyes in that kind of environment really thrives. He just seems like he's at home, and that is an underrated thing.
God bless. In every regard, I actually do think it's a miracle what he's achieved at Everton Football Club. I know a lot of Everton fans are very, very disappointed that the results have not remained consistent, particularly not at home. Talks about that in the interview tomorrow. But I think to do so much with a deeply, obviously, tactically flawed team, no fullbacks, strikers, a problem as much as we love the Betos and the Barrys. I think it's nothing short of remarkable, and I find him really fascinating to listen to. Let's bring on up the great, couldn't be a big match breakdown without Josh Youngerman, you beautiful human being. Come on up, Josh, unmute. And what's your question for King Rory Smith?
I'm a Republican. Don't believe in the club.
Okay. I'm going to translate that. Go for that one again, beautiful, so we can hear you, Josh Young.
I'm a Republican. I don't believe in the monarchy.
There you go. God bless. You're on to the right channel. This is The Rest is History. Welcome, Josh Youngerman. When you're speaking on the phone, you've got to have the bit with the mouth by your mouth and the bit with the ear, but not the other way around, baby. What's your question for King Ross?
I have a serious and a goofy one. My goofy one is it right for me to be feeling this calm about the Premier League right now? Then my very serious question is, which trophy in the quintuplet is the most important? And that would be the Carabao, the FA Cup, the Champions League, the Premier League, or Spurs getting relegated. Which is the most important?
That's such a leading question, Your Honour. Josh, you'd be a very good trial lawyer. Josh Youngerman, Arsenal fan, is he right to suddenly be feeling very relaxed to watch his team, honestly, playing very free football, if we're going to be honest, and jump to a conclusion after one game, Raw? But which trophy is the most important? Leading question, Your Honour. I
think you shouldn't be calm, but a lot of the kind of antsiness of Arsenal fans should be starting to just ebb away a little bit, because City drawing with West Ham, having drawn with Forest, those are significant results. Like that is a genuine kind of there is now daylight, and that is important. But look, it'll be nervy until it's mathematically certain, and that's how it should be. Winning titles isn't easy. Which is the most important? I don't think it would be fair for Arsenal to win the league in the same year as Spurs got relegated. That's too much. I'm not sure people could cope with that level of happiness. Look at it this way: how would anything ever compare? Nothing would ever compare. It's not good for you.
I think that's the question. By the way, asking which trophy Arsenal want to win most is a bit like asking Captain Ahab which whale he wants to catch the most. I mean, You know what I mean? It's kind of obvious. But I do wonder, that's a fascinating question, which we'll give. And I remember Spurs fans, I feel your pain as an Everton fan. You are, said this many times, the Everton of the South.
I don't think that makes them feel better, Rog.
Which will give, do you know?
No. I don't think that's what they want to hear.
Is that like me being like, as a sick man? I think you're like me. I'm sorry, Everton. Spurs, you got your own wonder, your own singular wonder, which I admire because it's kind of reminiscent of mine. But as one bald man, I really admire your baldness, sir. Asking Arsenal fans what they would actually long term remember more with more pleasure. That's crazy. Whether the year after 22 years of dreaming and shattered dreams, we finally won the title, or that year the Spurs were relegated.
That's not even a question. The genuine answer to that question is of what would give Arsenal fans more lasting pleasure, winning the league title or Spurs being relegated. It is obviously Spurs being relegated. Because the thing is, once you've won the league, and I say this as someone who remembers winning the league last year, or my team winning the league, you start to worry pretty quickly afterwards. It's like, can we defend it? Are we signing the right players? Do we need to win it better? Will Roy Keane call us bad champions? Whereas if Spurs were relegated, they would enjoy. I mean, Arsenal fans would wake up every day for an entire year with a spring in their step. And then even if Spurs came back, it would still be just every so often. Do you remember when Spurs got relegated? That is the most important from an Arsenal perspective. If you lose all 4 trophies, but Spurs get relegated, you'll still really love this season.
I mean, this is amazing. I'm looking at one of my friends who's an Arsenal fan at the text that he sends me in game. Like, even when Arsenal are winning, the agony, it's mentality. We got to get, our centre backs. It's blah, blah, blah. Just always seeing the darkness. And I'm looking at his text now when Spurs play. And he wrote, we're going to need a new word. Schadenfreude, don't cut it no more. There are no words for this joyous pleasure. So I do think you are there, but I'd love to know. And please, meninblades@gmail.com, Arsenal fans. By the way, I'm not relishing this. I'm just fascinated from a human perspective. This is one of the greatest, like, crazy psychological tests that you could possibly do. It's like the prisoner test or whatever. This is almost too perfect. This is a psychological moment, Ro.
Do you know what it is? A friend of mine, who's also a Liverpool fan, has a similar test, which I think is really, really interesting. Would you rather win the Carabao Cup or win a game 10-0?
What are you talking about?
If you win a Carabao Cup,
yeah,
for most clubs, it will be one of several honours that you, and obviously maybe not for kind of Port Vale or Doncaster Rovers, but if you're Aston Villa or even if you're Everton, it will fall into line with kind of lots of others honours that you have won, that your club has won over a long period of time. In Everton's case, Rog, there will be other nights, there'll be other years where you might win a trophy. How many times do you win a game 10-0? You never win a game 10-0.
Can I tell you, you're a spoilt little, overprivileged little knob when you're asking that question, Ro. You've won too much. You've gotten bored. You're getting a little dilettante. I've got to tell you, as someone that is still marking solemnly with my friends in an almost Masonic celebration the anniversary of every year that passes when we won the Florida Cup, Ro, I can tell you.
Would you rather win the Florida Cup or a game 10-0?
Florida Cup, man, that meant something. The emotions, my crying child by me. Just, Dad, I'll never forget this moment. Football doesn't get better than this. I don't know, Raw, but I do know we've got a peach of a question from a very patient human being who's going to close the show so I can get on the flight to London. It's the mighty Nadika. Tell us where you are. Remind us, big Nadiks. Tell us what you're going to ask, Raw, because it's beautiful.
Hi, I'm Nadika from Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh.
And since MIB seems to have a 1 Yorkshireman per live limit, I want to ask Rory, who is the greatest Yorkshire sports person ever? My vote is for Len Hutton, but I'm curious what Rory thinks.
Who's the greatest Yorkshire
Can we just say,
yeah.
Nadika, what an incredible question that is to close the show. To make this as accessible as possible, I mean, you've got to remember, your Raw's from Yorkshire. It's like its own kind of republic in Liverpool. Very stoic, very proud, very no nonsense. Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know how you describe Yorkshire. You've obviously spent the last couple of years describing it with me, Raw, but I'm trying to build a drum roll crescendo to this answer as you explain it.
It's kind of, yeah, it's its own thing. It has a very kind of strong regional identity of not really having emotions, not giving praise easily, generally being kind of happy with very little. That's Yorkshire. It takes a lot to please Yorkshire folk. Len Hutton would definitely be a good shout. I think a lot of people would say Jeffrey Boycott, who was a batsman, but was a deeply problematic figure. So we're not going to say him.
Deeply problematic because, I mean, he was just finish that sentence.
His personal life contained several demons. Jeff Boycott. So I mean, he wasn't, as a sportsman, he wasn't a spectacular. He was a very boring batter. But yeah, personally, he's a difficult man to admire.
I'm going to Google. Go on, keep going, baby.
I think you give a shout out to Amir Khan, the boxer. Either Brownlee brother, the triathletes. They would definitely be in there. Nicola Adams, the Olympic gold winning boxer as well. More recently, there's just so many.
Fred Truman.
Fred Truman is probably the canon answer. But then Joe Root, the England cricketer. Harry
Gordon
Brooke.
Banks.
Is Gordon Banks from Yorkshire?
I'm just Googling. I mean, it wouldn't be on Google if it weren't true, would it? Let me look it up.
Fred Truman is what most people would say, I think.
I mean, he was proper Yorkshire, that man, wasn't he?
Yeah.
James Horncastle.
James Horncastle will be there. But, I mean, to be fair, Marcelo Bielsa, honorary Yorkshireman. There's not many honorary Yorkshiremen, but Marcelo Bielsa is one of them.
He's from Sheffield. Sheffield is Banksy.
And then the other great Yorkshire, probably the defining Yorkshire sporting figure, just for his attitude to life, is David Batty, who was a tough tackling midfielder in a Leeds team that won the championship. I think he was at Blackburn. No, he joined Blackburn after they won the league, played for Newcastle, and then retired. Remembered that he hated football and disappeared. That is the most Yorkshire sporting career.
By the way, we've missed James Milner. In the modern period, Sheffield's finest. Next time, we'll do the best band from Yorkshire and the DK, and that will go on. No, it's got to be Heaven 17 in it, or Human League.
They're all, well, Pulp and the Arctic Monkeys. They're all from Sheffield. That's the shame of it. They're all from Sheffield.
I mean, that's genuinely an amazing story in its own right. The Bridewell Taxis, what a band they were in the day. I'm going off on one, so I'm going to rein this one in to close it, because that is it for tonight. And note on 2 upcoming joys in my life. One tomorrow on the Men in Blazers YouTube channel. We're dropping that interview I've already talked about with my footballing dad, Mr. David Moyes, talking about his own big plans for the rest of this season. Second, huge news. We're going to be joined at our Atlanta live show, March 27th, by an extraterrestrial musical icon beaming in from Stankonia. It's Atlanta's favourite icon, Big Boy, a remarkable man. He's been on this show before. I find him really inspirational. Talk about that city. There's a couple of tickets left. Get yours in the link in the show notes below. Come and raise a pint with us. We can't wait to be with you on the 27th. But Roy, it's been a joy to be with you. You incredible human being. Thanks for making our lives feel fleetingly joy-filled.
It's just a pleasure to be, to pick the bones apart of the shame of the Premier League, Rog.
God bless. And Nadika, thank you for saving the day with that beauty at the end. To you, Raw, to all of you, huge love. Let's not take a second of watching football together for granted. Even us Everton and Tottenham fans, right? Samesies.